Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open over 2,000 years in the future on a bustling intergalactic space station. Life on this floating stadium revolves around the galaxy's most popular sport, where alien combatants from different worlds fight for the chance to be sidekicked in the Spaceballs by the arena champion. The cheater is a cyborg called Horn that's had his physical attributes reduced so that the fight can be determined by skill alone. On a level playing field, his opponent Spinner begins to rally, which is actually an alien inside this hollowed out carcass of a robot. Horny's manager and underworld kingpin Rogor took over this station a few years ago and rigs everything for his fighter to win. He sends his mischievous Weezil to deliver an increase to their fighter's power level in the form of some good old-fashioned junk. This allows the ultimate warrior to pick his opponent up clear over his head, but then as his fans cheer he chucks him at them. Horn then chases Spinner into the audience where Coach Wayne tries to save his student from being killed by this Minotaurian drug addict. Spinner's manager Quinn talks about how corrupt this sport has become while a short order cook at the busy diner watches the drama unfold on TV. Steve Armstrong came here with big dreams of becoming a fighter but now works this dead-end job serving over salted eggs. His co-worker's a four-armed alien named Shorty with 28 children to feed, so he doesn't take any crap from these walking fish sticks. Unfortunately, their father Vang's more of a tuna melt, so Steve comes out from behind the counter with his massive 6-foot for the love of God frame and serves up a knuckle sandwich. Humans are seen as an inferior species since they haven't won a fight in the arena for 5 decades, so Vang thinks that he can take the Earthling. To everyone in the diner's surprise, he can't. And Steve dropkicks Vang through a window, wrecking the entire place over some salty scramble. Eggs are no excuse for crippling a patron, so Steve's fired alongside Shorty, as apparently self-defense doesn't apply in arena world. As a result, Steven is immediately evicted from his apartment since the unemployed in space are deported for vagrancy. We can't have all these freeloaders sucking up all the good oxygen, but Shorty feels he owes Steve for saving him from the slammin' salmon. He brings him to the space station's seedy underworld called the Tubes, where outcasts shelter from authorities. Marcus was the last human champion and won over 50 fights in the arena, making him a beacon of hope for young Earthlings like Steve, but now resides here as king of the bums, as we learn that Steve came here as a ranked fighter but quickly gave up on his dream because of all the corruption. Meanwhile, Spinner's arms are mangled, so he's unable to continue the tournament, and we never see this big retired lug again. We also never get to see their backup compete because Steve just broke his arm, but Buddy would have been turned into sushi if he went against Horn anyway. At Shorty's apartment we meet the space junkie Skull, as somehow even in the cosmos these people are out trying to run their scams. Since they want none of what the crackhead cyborg's trying to sell, they kick him out before settling in to talk about money problems or something. Later in the night they hear a knock and assume he's returned, but Quinn has sent Wayne and his muscle to get revenge for their fighter. Vang probably told them that he was jumped by 20 Stevens for no good reason, so Coach dishes out a lesson in hard sparring. The whole time Steve spends fighting he's asking who the hell is Vang, as he must hand out beatings like this on the regular. Steve defeats his attackers, so Quinn offers him a contract to fight in the arena, but he turns it down, assuming that it's some kind of setup. Shorty encourages him to join since the Earthling expresses his desire to return home but doesn't have any money for a ticket. In the meantime, he takes the kid to an illicit casino where Steve meets a local famous singer and showgirl named Jade. While he's busy being seduced by Rogor's girl, Shorty gambles all of their money in an attempt to win Steve the jackpot for a ticket to Earth. Suddenly the Space Fuzz raid the club and begin shooting everybody, so Shorty pockets some of the winnings and they escape through a secret tunnel. As repayment for saving his life, Shorty purchases a ticket for the human to reach Earth, and they spend his last night at the bar. While enjoying a hologram of Jade, they soon get held up at gunpoint by the Weezil, who saw them pocket the casino winnings. He's been ordered to bring the pair to Rogor as the stolen money belongs to him and he would probably like it back. Wouldn't you know it, tickets are non-refundable in the year 4038, so Steve has until the end of the day to recuperate the boss's losses. Shorty is held as collateral, so with no other choice the human is forced to turn to Quinn and signs a contract to join her stable. It must be for the cash up front because he pays off the debt immediately, which Shorty probably could have done himself if he had kept winning all Weezil's money. When it's time for the first fight, Steve faces skepticism from the crowd, as most don't believe humans can win against larger aliens. His opponent is a giant reverse grasshopper named Sloth and has been reduced to 60% power so that the puny human can stand a chance. It must also have weight reduced because Steve wins the first point when he pushes it out of the ring, where Shorty's the corner man offering moral support. After an awkwardly grueling slugfest, Steve scores a shocking upset when he dropkicks his opponent outside to win his first fight. His victory reverberates across the galaxy as humans finally see themselves represented, even if Weezil dismisses it as a fluke. Rogor doesn't seem to think so poaches Steven moments later, but only offers him money when a single Jade would probably work. Steve refuses since he knows this space vampire will just screw him over eventually and isn't just in this for the money anymore. He goes off to celebrate his win with Shorty and Quinn, who says that she's only here because she took over her father's business as Spinner's fight manager. She also says that he was her best fighter, which is just more shade thrown at Vang, while Rogor has brought along his secret weapon to seduce Steven to the dark side. She performs on stage while looking directly at her prey, but Shorty can see what the wench is trying to do. He takes Steven as far away from that bombshell as possible, which is a soup kitchen in the tubes where he uses his winnings to buy food for the poor. Steve receives the medal that took Marcus 50 arena victories to achieve, as he's become a symbol of hope even to this washed up bum. We receive a montage of the human defeating various aliens and ugly off-center graphics to show that Steve's about ready for a shot at the title. Count Rogor begins to get concerned that Horn might have a serious contender in Steven, so he does everything in his power to sabotage him. During his training session with an obese lizard, Steve gets distracted by the arrival of Jade and almost has his head taken off. When their sparring's over, Steve immediately falls under her spell, as he hasn't got his brain around to help him think. She invites him to her apartment, so that night Steve dons his prettiest of silver sashes and pays little Miss Trollop a visit. The flavor of the month doesn't even need any convincing from this woman before they're bumping uglies in an even uglier world. During the night, Jade gets up to spike Steve's drink, but this usually comes before the sex, and he shouldn't be drinking before the big match anyway. The next morning, the spy returns to Rogor and tells him that Horn won't have to try very hard, as she's left Steve as limp as a lamprey. He wakes up barely able to stand and staggers back to his team, so they call the space medics to come pump his space stomach. Horn has broken tradition as the champion and come out first to wait in the arena for his opponent, but it doesn't appear like he's going to show. Quinn prepares to pull the plug when the doctor says that the kid isn't 100%, but that's more than enough for Steve to continue. He's able to stand unassisted, so I guess he's at least 2% healthy, and prepares for his match without a second to spare. Quinn reveals that Jade is Rogor's girl, which gets Steve angry, even though he saw her hanging off of Dracula's arm at the club. As he enters the arena, the alien crowd boo while the humans cheer, and Rogor's surprised that doctors can pump a stomach. He blames Jade for not using enough poison, but the doctor reckons Steve was filled to his eyeballs with a lethal dose of space smack. Desperate to see Horny win, Rogor calls on Weezil to hack into the handicap system and increase his fighter's power level. As Weezil's accomplice Skull plugs into the computer, the human wins his first round by knocking his opponent out of the ring. However, when the second begins, Rogor gives the signal to stack the odds against Steve by reducing his power level, giving him blurry vision. He begins to lose his lead, while Marcus is shown in the crowd, hoping that Steve will break the human's half-century losing streak. A crippled Vang and his fingerlings are also shown in support of the human, as they don't cheer for the round winner when it's Horn. When Steve mentions feeling weak in the ring, Shorty discovers Rogor's deception when he finds Weezil sabotaging the handicap machine. The two have a brief scuffle, damaging the computer system, causing it to overload and feedback to blow up Skull's skull. The handicap disappears, bringing the alien up to full strength, but allowing Steve to regain his own and make it a fair fight. Shorty throws Weezil from the catwalk, killing him on impact, but none of the crowd react, as the main fight is just that awesome. Surprisingly, there isn't much slow-mo in this movie, but the final fight has it in droves as Steve rallies against the stronger opponent. He doesn't just knock Horn out of the ring, but puts him out cold as the arena erupts with cheers from all species. They rush Steve in the center of the ring, who's crowned the new galactic champion, ending the 50-year drought for pitiful humans. Rogor tries to claim it isn't fair because the handicap machine wasn't working, while Jade leaves him because I guess she thinks Steve will take her. He doesn't, so Quinn slugs the slag in the face, and Steve goes on to hopefully do something better. And the movie ends.